a description of the lost land of Atlantis and the reason for its downfall, according to Plato. This is by Steve McComley of Collective Spark. And again, I'm going to refer you to the Emerald Tablets. Thoth wrote them, Thoth the Atlantean, and he talks about why Atlantis was destroyed. It's because of the fact that they were using and abusing their advanced technology and their magic incantations and knowledge of how to travel through various dimensions, interdimensional travel, space, portal, time travel, and also abusing all this knowledge for the detriment of humans. And the fact that reptilians change into shapeshifters, changing into humans, and all these are spoken of in the Emerald Tablets. I've already put up a playlist. We've read 11 of those tablets so far out of the 42. And he does refer to the reason why Atlantis during the deluge was sunk. And there were some Atlanteans that survived and have fled to other parts of the world, taking their knowledge with them, and of course reconstructing pyramids in those areas that they went to, etc. Now, talking about this, according to what Plato says, and we know that Plato got the information from Solon, and Solon got the information from a high priest of ancient Egypt. Now, advanced civilization, ancient civilizations are, of course, a big topic of interest. I know I'm very interested in it, and I know a lot of my viewers are. We're getting new information as the more we delve into this. And after all, it's our ancestors. So we should be interested, because history repeats itself, and we should know what's out there. And now, it's a big topic of interest with researchers, historians, archaeologists, scientists, and even us, everyday people. Every single year, we are gifted with a mysterious find that has us questioning the origins of the human race and imagining the cultures which roamed our planet before us. We have found much evidence to suggest that there may have been civilizations in existence before us which were intellectually and even technologically superior. That being said, this theory is still thought to be quite fantastical despite all of the evidence which has been brought to light in recent years to support this notion. It's still largely ignored by mainstream media. And if you're interested in looking at some of this evidence, a great place to start is with, of course, Graham Hancock and his book, The Magicians of the Gods. It's others what is called forbidden archaeology. Now, concerning Atlantis, if you start talking about the lost ancient continent of Atlantis, most people will probably think that you're living in a la-la land, and many people are unaware that this city has been seriously studied for hundreds of years. I have to tell you that we also know that Rhodes sunk, but it re-rose back out of the water. The island of Rhodes in the Aegean Sea of Greece. That sunk, but it came back up again. In the great upheaval, obviously there were huge earth changes at that time. Now, many people are unaware that the city has been seriously studied for hundreds of years, and for example, we can see that it was a subject of significant importance for researchers at the Smithsonian Institute, as emphasized by their annual report of the Board of Regents of the Smithsonian Institute for the year ending June 30th, 1915. In the report, author P. Pierre Termier, a member of the Academy of Sciences and director of Service of the Geological Chart of France, gives a lecture regarding the Atlantean civilization, and he makes a compelling case for a further study of this lost city. Quote, "After a long period of disdainful indifference, observe how in the last few years science is returning to the study of Atlantis. How many naturalists, geologists, zoologists, or botanists are asking one another today whether Plato has not transmitted to us with slight amplification a page from the actual history of mankind. No affirmation is yet permissible, but it seems more and more evident that a vast region continental or made up of great islands, has collapsed west of the Pillars of Hercules, otherwise called the Strait of Gibraltar, and that its collapse occurred in the not far distant past. In any event, the question of Atlantis is placed anew before men of science, and since I do not believe that it can ever be solved without the aid of oceanography, I have thought it natural to discuss it here in this temple of maritime science, and to call to such a problem, long scorned but now being revived, the attention of oceanographers as well as the attention of those who, though immersed in the tumult of cities, lend an ear to the distant murmur of the sea, end quote. And we can read the full report here in this link, starting on page 219. Now, in his lecture, M. Termeer goes on to present zoologic, geographic, and geologic data to support the existence of the lost Atlantean civilization. Not only that, archaeological discoveries on the ocean floor have also raised some questions. Plato's description of Atlantis. Plato, the ancient Greek philosopher, provides a description of Atlantis in his dialogue Critias, which was never completed. The following is a summary of his depiction. These are a few of the many points I'm taking from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Atlantis was inhabited by earthborn and primitive human beings. One of them was wooed by the god Poseidon, who interbred with the human beings, and they eventually bore 5 children. This interbreeding between gods and humans is a common theme in many historical texts found throughout the world. The land was divided into concentric zones of land and water. 2 zones of land and 3 zones of water surrounded the central island, which had warm springs of water and cold springs of water. Atlantis became an established country with a wise government and an industry that sprung them to advanced technological heights beyond even what we have reached today. And again, I refer you to the Emerald Tablets. I have a playlist in my videos because Thoth, who wrote the Emerald Tablets, was an Atlantean. And he talks about the unbelievably advanced technology, and he tells of the reason why Atlantis was sunk, because of the way they abused and misused that technology and the knowledge of how to time travel, space travel, and travel between various other dimensions. Interdimensional travel. Now, Atlantis had limited resources, wild animals, and precious metals, and was heavily populated. Atlantis was full of large and beautiful palaces, temples, docks, and a network of various bridges and canals that united different sections of the kingdom. I have to also tell you that Thoth tells us that they had spacecraft. They were traveling all over the world with these aircraft, but they were also making interstellar travel, okay, with these spacecraft. And he says that he buried his spacecraft in Egypt in a plateau filled with pyramids. He also built a pyramid near it. So could it be the Saqqara pyramids, the Djoser pyramid, or could it be the Giza pyramids, or some other place that is still buried under the sands of the deserts of Egypt? We have no idea. Atlantis was full of large, beautiful palaces, temples, docks, and a network of various bridges, canals that united different sections of the kingdom. White, black, and red stones were used in the construction of public buildings. They circumscribe each of the land zones with a wall, the outer wall being covered with brass, the middle with tin, and the inner, which encompasses the citadel, with orichalco, copper, that is. The citadel on the central island contains the palaces, temples, and other public buildings. In its center, surrounded by a wall of gold, was a sanctuary dedicated to Clito and Poseidon. Atlantis had a number of gardens full of hot and cold springs. There were countless temples, public baths, and exercise facilities for both man and animal. The part of Atlantis facing the sea was described as lofty and precipitous, but about the central city was a plain sheltered by mountains, renowned for their size, number, and beauty. The plain yielded 2 crops each year, in the winter being watered by rains, and the summer by immense irrigation canals, which were also used for transportation. The plain was divided into sections, and in time of war each section supplied its quota of fighting men and chariots. Atlantis was massive, ruled by multiple kings who had control over their land. Their relationship with other kings were governed by an original code of ethics that was engraved by the first 10 kings. Quote, "The chief laws of the Atlantean kings were that they should not take up arms against each other, and that they should come to the assistance of any of their number who was attacked." In other words, they had alliances. Now, the downfall of Atlantis. These are the essential points Plato makes about Atlantis. He describes it as a great and powerful empire, almost magical, and said that this was the same empire which attacked the Hellenistic states. He attributes the power and glory they tasted after this venture to their eventual demise, writing that the love for these ego-driven desires that soon developed among Atlantean kings lured them from the pathway of wisdom and virtue. That's exactly what Thoth writes in the Emerald Tablets, that they were egocentric and haughty, very selfish, and they were going against the laws of nature and even their magic laws. They were doing things that were detrimental to space, to the universe, and to mankind. Now, Plato says, filled with false ambition, the rulers of Atlantis determined to conquer the gods into this holy habitation and address them. Here Plato's narratives comes to an abrupt end, for the Critias was never finished. Now Plato also tackles the subject of Atlantis in his Timaeus, written of a story told by Solon. This is very interesting, who himself is said to have heard the story in Egypt, passed on to him by a priest via hieroglyphic inscriptions in the temple in Sais, in which a violent cataclysm sank the continent. Thus, the island of Atlantis completely disappeared. Quote, "A technologically sophisticated but morally bankrupt, vile empire, Atlantis attempts world domination by force." This is exactly what Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets. And because of the fact that, which I told you that they would zap with their direct energy devices anybody who did not grovel at their feet. They would zap them into oblivion. Okay? And obviously, they wanted to enslave everybody, and of course, enslave humans and enslave men's souls. That's what they were all about, these Atlanteans. So thank goodness they're not around. Not that many. Well, I shouldn't say that, because from what Thoth says that they are interdimensional and that they're always around us. And they want to create chaos and havoc and the demise of humanity. Now, going back to this, the only thing standing in its way was a relatively small group of spiritually pure, morally principled, and incorruptible people, the ancient Athenians. Overcoming overwhelming odds, the Athenians are able to defeat their far more powerful adversary, the Atlanteans that is, simply through the force of their spirit. Sound familiar? Plato's Atlantean dialogues are essentially an ancient Greek version of Star Wars. Ken Feder, professor of archaeology, taken from his book Frauds, Myths, and Mysteries, Science and Pseudoscience in Archaeology. Now, the Egyptian connection is also interesting to bring up here, because Crantor, another ancient Greek philosopher, asserted that the Egyptian priests declared the story of Atlantis to be written upon pillars which were still preserved around 300 BC. They were still up and being read by people. Manly P. Hall has noted that before this cataclysm, a portion of the population left and did not succumb to the egoistic tendencies which apparently led to the downfall of Atlantis? Was the philosophic, religious, and scientific knowledge of Atlantis passed on? There are many similarities between the reported teachings of Atlantis and those of other cultures, such as the Mayas of Central America. Well, perhaps it's because the Atlanteans also went there. Not only there, but also to China, to India, to North America. Now, according to Manly P. Hall from the Atlanteans, quote, "The world received not only the heritage of arts and crafts, philosophies and sciences, ethics and religions, but also the heritage of hate, strife, and perversion. The Atlanteans instigated the first war, and it has been said that all subsequent wars were fought in a fruitless effort to justify the first one and right the wrong which it caused," end quote. Quote, "Before Atlantis sank, its spiritually illuminated initiates who realized that their land was doomed because it had departed from the path of light, withdrew from the ill-fated continent, carrying with them the sacred and secret doctrine. These Atlanteans established themselves in Egypt, where they became its first divine rulers. Nearly all the great cosmologic myths forming the foundation of the various sacred books of the world are based upon the Atlantean mystery rituals," end quote. Now, one of the most interesting parts of the story, to me, is the fact that this place is often remembered as a place of glory, light, and abundance, which it was, but they were not immune to the dangers of avarice either, as H.P. Blavatsky makes clear. Quote, "Under the evil insinuations of their demon, Thevatat, the Atlantis race became a nation of wicked magicians." That's exactly what Thoth writes in the Emerald Tablets. Yes. And please listen to those, because you have to know what they say. It's part of archaeology and ancient history. And I'm sure always, in a lot of discussions, extraterrestrials come up, UFOs come up, and you should have this knowledge under reptilians come up. You should have these things under your fingertips. And one of the things I will also, in a couple of hours, I have to go to sleep a little bit, I'm going to put up the Princess Diana comments on reptilians and the British royalty, okay? Because somebody was commenting on that. They wanted to hear what she had to say. So I found that, and I'm going to make a video on that. So yeah, the Atlanteans became a race of wicked magicians. In consequence of this, war was declared, the story of which would be too long to narrate. Its substance may be found in the disfigured allegories of the race of Cain, the giants, and that of Noah and his righteous family. The conflict came to an end by the submersion of Atlantis, which finds its imitation in the stories of Babylonian and the flood stories, the deluge. Now, this article, description of the lost land of Atlantis and reasons for its downfall, according to Plato, was originally created for collective evolution and is published here under Creative Commons on Collective Spark. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.